Chasing Static is a story-driven psychological horror masterpiece. Yep, I said that about an indie horror game, and I'll explain why. This was developed by Headware Games, a small team based out of Bristol, UK, and rightfully so, as the game takes place in a small town I've never heard of over there. Chasing Static is heavily inspired from 2000s horror games such as Silent Hill, Penumbra, Eternal Darkness, to name a few. So reading this from the game's website, I was skeptical, as we all know a lot of trash gets on the PSN store, but it was $20, so I cracked into it. Idle management, obscure but sometimes obvious puzzle solving, and non-linear storytelling are all here to pay homage but paint some very original ideas on the original beaten to death genre, so let's get into it. You play as Chris, finding out his father had just passed away. A worker from the funeral home explains over the phone he had left whoever would care enough to read it a diary. I say anyone and not Chris because he starts his entries with "to whom it may concern." The diary isn't addressed to Chris, showing how distant his father had become due to his research. Chris describes his father as a loyalist, driven, and completely absent of empathy. Consumed in his work, Chris left the town to start his own life and forget his father. Little did he know upon his return the town would be consumed by otherworldly anomaly that distorts reality and shows the living receiver past encounters of occupants within its environment. Things that die leave echoes that can be perceived within the right equipment, that being static. So yeah, you're chasing static. It sounds cliche, but quite honestly it hooked me and it hung around for the perfect length of time. The atmosphere is thick, and when you finally encounter what I can only describe as an anomaly, it's bone-chilling, like goosebumps up and down my body more times than I can count bone-chilling. You can complete the game in one sitting, and everything is straightforward with a few hurdles to overcome, which makes for a better experience than just walking around. You have to think, you have to look at what's being presented and piece it together. What happened to the small community, your father, and the highly covert operations teams that were researching what is basically an SCP. What is so simple about these types of games is that anyone can pick it up and understand how to play. Those people put it back down and think there's nothing to do but walk around looking at what basically is ghosts, and they wait for scary things to happen. Those people play Five Nights at Freddy's on Roblox unironically. Chasing Static is non-linear. It lets you approach scenarios in any order you want. It rewards exploration, and not in the ways you think, not leveling, not skills, but understanding the world and the story in more detail. I uploaded my first playthrough on my channel, but that only showed one way you go about completing the game. There's many endings, and so far I have 3.
I'm headed east. Oswestry.
Oh, so do you want the good news or the bad news first?
But the moment-to-moment gameplay has hints of these 2000s-style horror games: inventory management, key items, notes, and avoiding scary shit. Chasing Static does exactly what it sets out to achieve, and for what's on offer here, I implore any horror fan to give it a go. On a technical side of things though, I got random pop-ins of black squares and trees just disappearing and reappearing, but I don't know if it's bad to say, as it added to the otherworldly feeling that things weren't right here. I understand draw distance, but this would happen blatantly on screen, but it didn't take away from the experience at all. The voice acting here is also more than serviceable. You get dialogue options, which I just showed, and it adds to the character depth, and it didn't feel tacked on like so many other games. The graphics added to the aesthetic big time, and it made the scares that much better, or worse, whatever way you want to look at it. I couldn't look away from what was being presented, and I loved it. Once it comes to the climax with one of its many endings, I was shocked at how much of a solid experience I just partook in. I think I verbally said out loud, that was great. It has restored some faith in indie horror games, and I can't wait to see what Headware Studios does next. Everything that gets thrown in together to make a well-made game is one thing, but a well-made horror game is another. I genuinely got more uncomfortable with 2 hours of Chasing Static than some recent AAA titles. So do I recommend Chasing Static? Yes. For $20 you get something that has adamant direction in its world and its storytelling. And to reiterate from earlier, highly suggest any horror fan to play this game. So yeah, play Chasing Static. Thank you for watching. You can watch the full playthrough on my channel as well. I will be uploading more full long plays, so you can actually go and see my first blind playthrough of some of the more abstract sort of games that I like to play, some of those sort of cheap indie games that I kind of just give a go. Okay, cool, bye.